Hello and welcome to Pneuma. Thanks for stopping by. A lot of people come to Pneuma because they've been referred by a friend or loved one, but they don't always understand what we do or how it's different from a typical setting. So I just want to explain because what we do is very unique. So I'm just going to get right into it. Here at Pneuma, we believe that every single person has had adverse events in their life that negatively impact them today. So every single one of us has had 365 days of every year of our life. And in those 365 days, we have been exposed to things that we were never built for. Our hard wiring is for a land with no death and no evil in all of its forms. And every human's greatest desire is to exist in a land with no death and no evil. And that's why our clients come to us, because they have been exposed to that on some level in all of its various forms. We work with everything from childhood abuse to the deaths of a marriage and a million adverse experiences in between. So the approach we take is very unique. It's like a life makeover. We are all humans living in a land with death and evil, and we believe God has put a motherload of science on the earth to help us rapidly recover from exposure to adverse experiences that we've all had in the fallen world. So we also believe that if you had cancer and you went to your oncologist, you would want that oncologist to be up to date on the latest developments to cure your illness. So in the same way, we see it as our responsibility as licensed clinicians to be up to date on the latest modalities science has to offer to rapidly accelerate the healing process and alleviate suffering. That is what Jesus is all about, and he is free to use every molecule in his creation to bring about healing. So the approach that we take is very specific, as I've mentioned a couple of times. Since our experiences happen over a lifetime, we offer to help you heal your whole life story. It's truly a complete mental health makeover. And we do that through 4 foundational elements of our treatment plan, and I call them the 4 R's. The first element is retraining your brain. Retuning your brain or retraining your brain is the first thing that we do, and this is foundational for everything else that we do. We stabilize the brain first, which makes the other R's, the other 3 R's, reprocessing, reintegration, and resourcing, so much easier and so much more effective. I have learned from Bessel van der Kolk and Peter Levine. I've been a student of his for 10 years, and he strongly advocates for stabilizing the brain first before you dive into the other things that you're working with. Most people don't realize, just like notes on the piano have frequencies and vibrations, your brain has brain waves that have frequencies and vibrations. So like the keys on the piano need to be tuned, they need to be in their proper frequencies, in order to make harmonious music. Brain waves have to be in tune. And they need to be operating inside of their correct frequencies for your brain to function in harmony with your bodily systems. People who have trauma, or any of us, most of us on earth today, have very disorganized brain activity. Our brain waves are all out of whack and all out of tune. So the very first step we take is to take your brain and to tune it, to put those brain waves gently into the frequencies that are their happy place. And we do this with a modality called neurofeedback. We place electrodes on your head and we provide your brain with real-time feedback that gently tunes your alpha waves, your theta waves, and all your other brain waves frequencies, stabilizing your entire nervous system. And this is the optimal foundation by which to reprocess your trauma. So we stabilize the brain first, and when the brain waves are tuned and they're in their correct frequencies, this stabilizes the entire visceral system and allows you to bounce back from traumatic events a lot faster. The second phase is the resourcing phase. That's what we do to further prepare you. We need to give your mind tools to deal with emotional destabilization in a positive way instead of a negative way. We need to bolster the strengths in your brain as a resource as you go through this process of a life makeover. A lot of times when we feel emotionally destabilized, we reach out for negative things to cope and to soothe ourselves, and that leads to addiction and unhealthy patterns. So, the process of resourcing allows us to hardwire positive tools into your neural network, tools that help you stabilize and deal with emotional distress in a way that actually works and helps you. And the third thing that we do is reprocessing. If you look back over your lifespan and examine 365 days of every year of your life, you can probably identify days when you were exposed to adverse situations, death, and evil. Those adverse situations, those experiences need to be reprocessed with your adult brain and with a trained clinician. Maybe it was a big trauma like loss, violence, abuse, and maybe it was a little trauma like your dad yelled at you. But even small traumas exist on a spectrum, and they still have an impact on our lives today. The closer trauma happens to birth, the stronger and more lasting its effect. And I'll say that again. The closer trauma happens to birth, the stronger and the more lasting the effect. So what do? We use a modality called EMDR. It stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. It basically is REM sleep reimagined with a trained professional and on steroids. We go back to those days, we go back to those memories, and we harvest the deceptive beliefs that were installed in your belief system. I'm worthless. I'm unlovable. I can't succeed. People don't love me. The world's not safe. All of these deceptive beliefs get ingrained in your belief system in the midst of trauma and exposure to evil and death. EMDR goes back, harvests the deceptive belief, and replaces it with truth. This rapidly accelerates healing. And at Pneuma, we believe Jesus is the truth. He is the supernatural, powerful, miraculous healing property that we call truth. Somehow, when you believe the truth, I'm lovable, I'm worthy, I can keep myself safe, I can be successful. Somehow, when you believe truth about yourself, it clears up a myriad of symptoms, and it really does set you free. It's true. So if you go back over your lifespan and you find those things that were just so disturbing, maybe you think they didn't matter, maybe you think they did, that's the process of reprocessing. That's the third R in the treatment plan, reprocessing. The fourth R stands for reintegrate. And that's the final thing that we do. We may do 3 and 4 interchangeably, but trauma gets trapped in a part of the brain all by itself. 5 different parts of the brain is where trauma gets stored. And if there's no compassionate witness or no one to help you understand things in the aftermath of trauma, it stays fractured in those places in the brain. It's like a house in the middle of the woods with no roads leading to it. And the only time anyone knocks on the door is when you're triggered or re-traumatized. So through the reintegration process, we go through your entire life story and we bring those memories into the whole brain. We do that by compiling a list of 3 memories from each year of your life, 3 or more memories from each year of your life, and we integrate your entire life story. We go back to little you when you're 3, when you're 4, when you're 5, middle school, however old you are, and we allow you to forgive yourself and rectify your relationship with yourself. We can go back and you can introduce yourself to your 4-year-old self. You can introduce yourself to your teenage self, and you can introduce all of these selves to Jesus. There are parts of ourselves that we don't really feel free to bring to our God or whatever your faith may be. So Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. We believe you have to love all of yourself. You are a complex story that is comprised of 365 days of every year of your life. And so some parts of yourself may be separated from you. We want to integrate the whole person. People who go through this integration process report feeling tremendous peace, and they just say things over and over. We hear, I just feel like me. I just feel like myself. I feel very grounded. Everybody has different parts of themselves that shows up in different times and different spaces, and integration really helps us to be stabilized and remain in our authentic self as often as possible. And it really helps to emotionally stabilize. So when the trauma gets trapped in a place in your brain all by itself, it needs to be integrated, and that's what we do. And those are basically the 4 things that we do. The other thing that's important to understand is that your psyche is like a 100-story building. The top 10 floors are really what you're aware of most of the time. But those bottom 90 floors in the basement is where some of the worst beliefs, the most deceptive beliefs are held. The integration process helps us to bring those things to the light, and it helps us to uproot deeply buried, deceptive beliefs that are really running your life. These modalities, unlike talk therapy alone, go down to the lower registers. We use things like EMDR, neurofeedback, and bilateral stimulation while we integrate, while we reprocess, and while we retrain the brain. We also use bilateral stimulation in our resourcing process. So these modalities that we use, like I said, we're going back to every day of your life. We're trying to figure out, where did you have the experience of adverse? All of this together is a rapidly accelerated full life makeover treatment plan that we use with our clients. It's unique to each client because every client's story and experiences are unique. We have access to some of the greatest science in the world, and scientists and researchers have compiled a lot of information that drastically changes the course of our work. So we work through a faith-based lens where we are not built for a land with death and evil. Adam and Eve were put in the garden, and they were not able to see death or evil. They weren't able to be exposed to it, and they were connected to the tree of life. But they were deceived by Lucifer, the powers of darkness. They were deceived and they were vulnerable. And when that happened, their eyes were open. And now we're all vulnerable. We all have the ability to be exposed to death and evil, and it has a terrible impact on our lives and our behaviors and the way that we are. They were also cut off from the tree of life. Adam and Eve didn't die instantly, just like the snake told them. They lived to be 900 years old. So we want to reconnect you to life, and we want to reprocess the days of your life that you were exposed to death and evil in this lifetime. Healing is available. Powerful healing is available. Personally, I have walked with some of the most unspeakable evils, things that I would never even repeat, that people have been through. And these modalities have radically changed the course of these people's lives. No matter where you are, when you are exposed to any form of death and any form of evil, it's an opportunity to allow fear to set in and to allow deception to set in. It can be very debilitating. So at Pneuma, we believe in a full life makeover. We believe that we are belief system engineers, that we help you with the help of Truth himself to re-engineer your belief system and fill it with faith robustly. I am worthy. I am safe. I have power in the world. I have a voice. And we help you to believe those truths on a very, very deep level. So that's a very big bird's eye overview of what we do here. And I hope that this is the right time for you to engage in this journey. It's a very intense process, and it has to be the right time in your life. We have a very strict attendance policy, and it requires twice weekly visits at minimum. And we understand that doesn't work with everyone's schedule. It probably wouldn't work with my schedule right now, but that's what this requires. And it's a season of your life. And even if you're not there yet, maybe you can work to a place where you can make this space in your life to do this work and completely change the trajectory of your life. I just thank you so much for sticking with me in this video, and we look forward to working with you.